All righty, let's see here. Bring the music down a little bit. Hello, hello. Hello, Aaron. Thanks for tuning in today. Let's see here. Do we have the right tab? We do. I think we have it. Apologize, I got a little bit of a cold today, too. Okay, I think this is the right one. Oh, maybe not, though, because we can't... we still can't see it. Is it this one? Maybe it's this one. No. The interesting thing is it's showing... Oh, there we go. Okay, we got it. Nice. Schnoish. All right, hello, and welcome to the breakdown, talking a little bit about some of the D&D 5.5 2024 changes that are happening as of late. If you are a longtime D&D player like myself, you may be wondering what the heck has changed, what's different. I say long time. I've been playing myself as a forever DM for about 3 years now, I guess, and started playing about a year before that. So I've been playing for about 4 years now. Love D&D. It's an awesome game. Greatest game of all time. And so today we're going to dive into some of the changes that are affecting a few of our classes. I do not know all these classes like the back of my hand. I typically have picked the classes that my players have 2 campaigns that I DM, and they both meet about every other week. Like I said, one's been playing for about 3 years. The other one's been going for a little bit over a year. And yeah, so all that to say, feel free, if you're watching the live stream, feel free to jump in and correct me on anything I have wrong. But other than that, let's dive in. So the new D&D version has brought a handful of changes. Nothing too drastic, and that is part of the reason why people are calling it 5.5e or a half edition upgrade. It seems that Wizards of the Coast is keen to call it 2024 rule set. But all that to say, let's check this out. Let's start with the Wizard. This is a class that I really don't know well. My wife plays a wizard in one of our campaigns, and it is a bit of a fun class. Let's also pull up the actual wizard. Where are we at? Why can't I read? The wizard in the player's handbook. Here we are. One of the things I pointed out that I really like about the new changes is how they have, straight off top of the bat, they have the primary ability, the hit point die, skill, pretty much all the important details you would need to know are right here at the start. So, having said that, let's take a look here. So, we were going to... Hang on. Can we duplicate? Let's go first to 2014 handbook and check out the wizard. So let's see what differences there are right off the bat. Looks like spells are all similar. 4-3-3-3-2. Yep. This ritual adept. What is this? You can cast any spell. This was actually already. Wasn't this already a thing? Ritual adept. You can cast any spell as a ritual if that spell has a ritual tag and the spell is in your spell book. You needn't have the spell prepared, but you must read from the book to cast a spell in this way. I could have sworn that was something already in here. Is that Arcane Tradition? Oh, it's just not listed as its own thing. So nothing new there. And in fact, for the sake of brevity, let's check out this neat... Hey, Yiklong, Desmond Tay. I guess I should call you Desmond. This is on D&D Beyond. So here's what's new. Level 1, you can replace a cantrip each long rest. That's a great change. I think prior to this, you could change a cantrip when you leveled up. Or maybe this is a homebrew rule that I used prior to this. I can't remember. Backing up your spell book is faster and cheaper. I don't know what this means, by the way. So if one of you has an insight. Ritual casting has been removed from spellcasting. Classes can now cast any prepared spells with the ritual tag as a ritual. White name to keep things simple. I like it. I like it. Gain expertise and a select skill. Is this a proficiency bonus? Let's see. Scholar. Yes. You have expertise. This is a feature that enhances your use of a skill proficiency. When you make an ability check with a skill proficiency in which you have expertise, your proficiency bonus is doubled for that check unless the bonus is doubled by another feature. So the thing about expertise, I don't have a problem with this, by the way. And I think there's a concept. Don't rogues have expertise in the 2014 rule set? Or something similar, like something that gives them the double proficiency, I guess. I don't dislike this mechanic, but this is a good example of where D&D becomes a little cumbersome for new players, in that understand someone new to the table who's understanding what proficiency is, and then it's like, well, what do you have expertise in? That means you get to double it. Again, don't necessarily have an issue with this. I just think it makes the game a little bit more clunky. So, anywho, so they can pick a skill to have double proficiency in, essentially, which maybe I would have just called it that instead of expertise as its own thing. Interestingly, we only have 4 subclasses listed here, which I assume that means they either don't have all the ones listed that aren't part of the core rulebook, or maybe they've combined some subclasses here. Let's see what we have. Moved up to level 3 from level 2. All wizard subclasses get 2 free spells from a school and another free spell each time they gain access to a new level of spell slot. Okay. You get counterspell and dispel magic. Dude, Abjurer. This is a fun one. They don't use spell slots if they fail. That's a great detail. It's the norm for all classes to have 4 subclasses. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So Abjure, and this is a detail about Counterspell, by the way. They changed Counterspell in the new rule set. So previously what would happen is you would make a roll to beat the caster. And, well, based on the level of spell being cast, you would make a roll to try to beat the caster. Now in the new D&D rule set, the person who is being counterspelled makes a roll themselves. I prefer this, by the way, because it's something very clunky about counterspell is this kind of goofiness around, you know, the big bad evil guy casts a ninth level spell or an 8th level spell, basically casts a big spell. And there's sort of like this goofiness around a lower level player like counterspell boof. I like the idea that a legendary, is this actually showing the 20, let's see. I think this is showing the 2014 rule set. But anyway, a legendary creature can use a legendary resistance to succeed, which is much preferred. Much preferred. And I think this is the 20, yeah, it says 2014. Let's actually read the actual new spell. Come on, where are we? Ooh, that's a rule, I think. We don't want that. Where do we find our spells on here? They changed. Here we go, spell descriptions. What was the Warlock Abjuration cantrip? The only wizard subclass I know semi-well is... oh man, I'd have to look to see what my wife is playing. Where are we at? Counterspell? COU. Here we go. Yeah, so here we go. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. The creature makes a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the spell dissipates with no effect, and the action, bonus action, or reaction used to cast it is wasted. If that spell was cast with a spell slot, the slot isn't expended. So does this mean that... this means that if a spell being counterspelled is counterspelled, the spell slot is maintained. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding this? All this to say, though, I absolutely love this change, putting it on the creature to make the Constitution saving throw. It doesn't make it so gimmicky, I feel like, with some higher level spells. Anyway, let's go back to this. Diviner or Diviner, depending on how you say it, largely the same, although the third eye gives 120-foot dark vision and the ability to cast See Invisibility without a spell slot. Evoker, Potent Cantrip, and Sculpt spells have swapped places. Potent Cantrip now applies to missed spell attacks as well as successful saving throws. In Illusionist, you can ignore verbal components for illusion spells and can cast Minor Illusion as a bonus action. Its Summon Beast and Summon Fae as always prepared spells that can be cast once per long rest without a spell slot. So let's look at our older version. Is this 20? Yep, it is. So yeah, here's what I'm talking about. In the old 2014 version, look at all these schools that you can do. Which was very overwhelming for my wife. She was like, what the heck? Like, which one do I choose? And I think she went with Divination, I'm pretty sure. But I very much appreciate them winding these subclasses down to the 4 options. So, at level 5, swap 1 prepared spell for 1 in your spellbook, each short rest. That's awesome. I love that. Chosen spells must now have a casting time of 1 action, but don't count as always prepared. You can swap a spell on a long rest rather than using 8 hours of study, but only 1 per long rest. And then the Epic Boon feat, which every class has, the Epic Boon. Sure. So yeah, I don't really know what to make of this class in terms of... It's not real clear to me what's changed that's meaningful other than simplifying the subclasses, which I think they really needed. And then it looks like here, thanks to the new Savant feature, they get to add a spell from their chosen school to their spell book each time they unlock a new level of spell slot. And I'm pretty sure, you guys help me, I'm pretty sure with Wizards, the way your spell book works and has worked in the past is if you can come across a written version of a spell, or maybe if someone teaches you the spell, you can add it to your spell book. I think that's correct. Armor of Shadow's Invocation lets you cast Mage Armor without a slot. Spam to rebuild ward. Interesting. Okay. A good detail. Okay, cool. I mean, it's interesting to me, I guess. So we can see their list of spells. I'm assuming these probably haven't changed much. Nothing that I see. I didn't realize that Legend Lore is a 5th level spell, by the way. Summon Dragon. Dude, some of these are cool. So what level, by the way, do they get? Let's see. 5th level, is that level 9? Yeah, okay. All right, cool. Let's move on. Let's keep this train going, you know? Let's look at Barbarian. So, for Rage, in addition to making an attack roll against an enemy, Rage can be maintained by using a bonus action or by forcing an enemy to make a saving throw. You can get a use of Rage back after each short rest. That's a great change, by the way. I think early on, you have 2 uses of Rage. Something that's a little bit painful for players in general is that as a DM, there's, especially in those early levels, you're a bit limited in terms of what can happen in a day. For a Barbarian, you get into 2 encounters, you're going to Rage in both encounters. So to lose those early in a day of content or playing, I guess, that can feel really bad. So I love you get one back. This one's interesting. Rage can be maintained by using a bonus action. So I'm assuming what that means is you can just say, hey, I'm going to use my bonus action to keep my rage. Especially if you can't get to an opponent. Or by forcing an enemy to make a saving throw. That I don't understand. Let's see here. Oh, I think this means if an opponent has to make a saving throw because of you, it will also, as a bonus, extend your rage. So, very cool. How do you feel about some, including devs, suggesting starting at level 3 to alleviate that issue? I think it's up to the DM and the kind of table that they have. I have played, I think, both of my campaigns we started at level 2. Which was, it gets by some of that awkwardness of level 1. Also at level 1, like a goblin can down you. So I think the players feel very fragile. So it's made sense to start at level 2. In the latest campaign of Critical Role, they started at level 4. So I definitely get it. It doesn't bother me if people do it or don't do it. I think it's a total preference for the player and the people at the table. I will say if the norm is starting at level 2 or level 3, it tells me that there's something a bit awkward and wrong with level 1. If no one has any interest starting there, then it becomes a bit awkward to me. But I guess it's more of a personal preference on the story behind it. You know, if you truly want to start at level 1 or what have you. But anyway, danger sense. And then you mentioned an action used to grapple extends it also, I suppose. That's a great insight, by the way. I love that. Danger sense. Previously, you'd be able to hear or see a fireball streaking to you to get advantage on your dexterity throw. Now you can dodge effectively even when blinded or deafened. Okay. There you go. No longer need to hear or see the effects to gain advantage on dexterity saving throws. They also do get weapon mastery. We won't recover weapon masteries. We did last week talk about these. If you're new to the new rule set, essentially, if your class has the, I'll just call it the weapon mastery affinity, which I believe is fighter, barbarian, paladin, and rogue. I think that's the 4. I might be missing one. Then essentially, as you use a melee weapon, and it is your weapon of choice for weapon mastery, you get certain benefits from that weapon. So like one weapon, it might be a longsword, has the cleave property. So whenever you hit an opponent, you can do damage to another opponent within 5 feet. And every weapon has an intrinsic property behind it. The only detail that's not clear to me, it says here, gain access to more mastery properties as you level up. What is that referring to? Let's see. Oh, okay. Just the number of properties you can access will increase as you level up. This is a little bit goofier to me in that since you can just swap This is the same page. Since you can just swap out your weapons, I think it's at a long rest. Here we go. At level 1, you can choose 2 simple or martial melee weapons and access their mastery properties. So I guess as you level up, you get more weapons you have access to. And this allows you, this is what it must mean by number of weapons. So yeah, gain access to more mastery properties. So there's no like progression path on a specific weapon. It's just that as barbarians level up, there is more weapons they can have to choose from, which I like. So reckless attack now lasts until the start of your next turn and now works on opportunity attacks. Okay, interesting. I thought reckless attack was just for 1 attack. Is that not the case? Let's see it on here. Is it all your attacks for reckless attack? Because definitely how I've played it in the past is that you choose the attack to do reckless. So if you have 2 attacks, one can be reckless and one cannot. But it sounds like when you do this, it's all reckless. So let's check I want the old rule set here. When you make your first attack on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on melee weapon attacks, but attacks against you have advantage against you. So that was a detail that I had wrong, by the way. I didn't realize it was your first attack. I thought it was you could just always choose to do it on an attack. But let's look at the new rule set. Let's go. Oh, I guess it's saying that you can. It's your first attack, I guess. But if your first attack is an opportunity attack, you can use reckless attack on it. Because it says when you make your first attack roll on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly, which is verbatim the same thing. Okay, 2014 reckless is for all attacks, but ends when your turn ends. 2024 lasts until the start of your next turn. Oh. It's kind of vague in how they phrase this here. But that's fine. Close these. Yeah, makes total sense. Okay. Our subclass is Path of the Berserker. Frenzy Downs deal extra damage instead of giving extra attacks and no longer provides exhaustion. I wouldn't have hated it affecting exhaustion just since which actually, did they change it even from the 1 D&D rule set? Let's see. Okay, that's still true. Oh, no. So I didn't realize they changed this. In the original 1 D&D playtest material, what they were doing with exhaustion was for every point of exhaustion you had, it was your D20 was reduced by your level of exhaustion. So if you had 3 levels of exhaustion, you roll a D20, you do your attack roll or your pretty much all ability checks, all that stuff. Let's say you roll a 15. Well, if your exhaustion's 3, you subtract 3. So it's a negative for whatever your exhaustion level is. And I really liked that because it made exhaustion is a really difficult mechanic to it's a very difficult mechanic to give out, I guess, in the sense that it's so punishing in D&D. So I really liked the negative modifier because it made exhaustion a more active mechanic. Like when a player chooses not to get a long rest, for example, and they've been through something really arduous. But unfortunately, it looks like they've moved away from that. And yeah, it looks like they don't have... They got rid of all the different things that happen with each exhaustion level, which I just said earlier, I didn't like expertise. And yet here I am about to say, like, I kind of liked those different exhaustion levels. Totally get why they reduced it. Name the effects of all 6 levels of exhaustion. Take a shot if you fail once. Ridiculous to memorize. Spot on for sure. But here what we see, when you make a D20 test, your roll is reduced by 2 times your exhaustion level. Speed is reduced by 5 times your exhaustion level. And finishing a long rest removes 1 of your exhaustion levels. So if you have 1 point of exhaustion, it'd be a -2. So, I mean, I guess, I like the middle ground here that they landed with. So it's not too bad, I guess. Anyway, Path of the Wild Heart. Increases are balanced and streamlined. It can be changed out each time you rage or long rest. Path of the World Tree. A whole new barbarian subclass that draws power from the multiversal tree Yggdrasil. And Path of the Zealot. Focus has been shifted to staying alive rather than been easier to resurrect. What a goofy subclass previously. Let's see here. Look at all these subclasses, man. So did they get rid of the Totem Warrior? Because this is what one of my players plays. I guess so. Let's look at the new... Let's see here. Did they work it into Path of the Wild Heart? Okay, interesting. I will say Path of the Zealot. One thing that was interesting about Path of the Totem Warrior was your resistances to damage. Which, do we have it on here? See it on here. Here we go. Totem Spirit at the 3rd level. While raging, you have resistance to all damage except psychic damage. This was just nuts and kind of stupid, honestly. I mean, it was kind of fun as a barbarian because you could really be up front, like wheeling and cleaving and dealing, right? But it's extremely powerful. Let's look back up here. Do we have anything similar? Here we go. Okay, here we go. Path of the Wild Hearts. This is worked into this subclass. For Bear, and you can choose which... Was this possible earlier? Okay, so previously, you chose one of these animals. Now, every time you rage, you can choose one of these. I really like this. I love that as a player, you have... a bunch of options on what you can do. But one thing of note, instead of resistance to all damage except for psychic, when you take Bear, you have resistance to all damage except for force, necrotic, psychic, and radiant. Way better. I like this a lot. And I love that you can choose these other ones as well. And then you have these for every time that you finish a long rest. Power of the Wilds. Is that a certain level? You have this has to be higher level to get the Power of the Wilds. But again, when you activate your range, you get these choices. This is so cool. I'm a big fan of this, especially compared to our previous ones. Yeah, I love that you can swap them out. That's much better. Okay, so Barbarian, at least Path of the Wild Heart, it got a little bit more balanced, and the option to choose between animals based on the needs of combat, very, very cool. I don't know anything about Berserker or these other ones, basically. They said this is a new one. Your rage taps into the world tree. You get a number of hit points equal to your Barbarian level, temporary hit points. You can choose another creature within 10 feet to give them temporary hit points. That's pretty cool. You can take a reaction to put branches around it. Okay. Your reach is 10 feet greater than any weapon that has the heavier versatile property. Okay, kind of cool. And you can teleport with a bonus action while your rage is active. Once per rage, you can increase the range of the teleport to 150 feet. And you can bring 6 creatures with you. That's very cool, and I love the flavor of that. That's very Yggdrasil-esque, I guess. Okay, so some cool changes for Barbarian. I like it a lot. Anything else here? When you drop to 0 hit points while your rage is active, you can instead heal for a number of hit points equal to twice your Barbarian level. That's very cool, and that might have also been the case previously. Let's see here. Well, yeah, here we go. This was a Constitution saving throw to drop to 1 hit point instead. And now it seems you can just heal for that amount, and likely once, I would assume. Let's see. Oh, it's still a Constitution saving throw, though. Okay, cool. I love it. Great changes for Barbarian. Big fan. Let's look at Druid here. Wild Shape is now a bonus action. Like that a lot. There was kind of a goofiness around early level Druids where, you know, you're level 1, level 2, and you use your action to Wild Shape, and the action economy is so low early on. The action economy is so low when you're a low level character that it just feels bad to Wild Shape and then be like, see you next round, I guess. 2 uses. It was 2 uses. Unlimited uses at level 20. Now it's 2 uses at level 2. 3 uses starting level 6. 4 uses at level 17. Okay. You would get them back when you finished a short or long rest. You get 1 use back when you finish a short rest, all when you do a long rest. At level 5, you can get a spot back by using up a spell slot. Ooh, so this is a little bit like the Warlock, not Warlock, Sorcerer, where you can get some of your sorcery points back, or you can spend your sorcery points to get a spell back. I love this mechanic, by the way. And then even at level 20, when you roll initiative, have no use as Wild Shape, regain 1 use. I love this. I love all of this. I love that you can get it back on a short rest. I think in general, and maybe this is just my campaigns, I feel like players don't always utilize the short rest as best they can. So giving ways to get resources back during a short rest, I think is really great. And I think also, did Paladins, I can't remember when I looked at Paladins, if they got their Channel Divinity back on a short rest. But that was another one that I was looking at too, where there was something with short rest that was really beneficial. Now the question about Wild Resurgence is this a one-time thing, or can they go back and forth? Surely not. You can't just endlessly do it. But let's also look at the Druid. Where are we? Paladins get 1 back per short rest. Okay, yeah. I really like that. I like them putting in more, coming from someone who didn't see players use short rest a lot. Now, then again, I also have 2 Druids in one of my campaigns, and they very rarely even use their Wild Shapes. So let's see here. Wild Resurgence. I love this wild companion feature, by the way. I have a player who has kind of done a homebrew druid that's honestly kind of like a ranger, because she really loved the idea of having an animal spirit with her. So I love that they did this. Okay, here we go. Wild Resurgence. Once on each of your turns, if you have no uses of Wild Shape left, you can give yourself one use by expending a spell slot. No action required. In addition, you can expend one use of Wild Shape. No action required to give yourself a level 1 spell slot. But for that one, you cannot do so again until you finish a long rest. Okay, so it sounds like you can burn spell slots as much as you want for Wild Shapes. But the other way around, you can do this one time to get a spell back per long rest. This is going to be a little gamey, I think, for some of my... I could see this, someone just burning endless spell slots to get Wild Shapes. But, I mean, if that's how they want to play the class, I think it's totally fine. This is pretty cool. I like this. You said, hey, I want to get your take. It irritates me that all the Wild Shapes are kind of mode, all of them except for the Land Druid, which uses Wild Shape for burst instant effect. Are you talking about how they've changed Wild Shapes to be... instead of like specific creatures, to be certain types of... Let's see here if I can find a good example. Known forms. Okay, here we go. The power of nature allows you to assume the form of an animal. As a bonus action, you can shapeshift into a beast form that you've learned from this feature. See the known forms below. You stay in that form for a number of hours equal to half your druid level, or until you use Wild Shape again, or you are incapacitated, or you die. You can also leave. By the way, did they change this? Did they change when you get incapacitated in your Wild Shape form? Typically, you just went back to your regular form. Is this suggesting that when you get incapacitated in your Wild Shape form that you're actually incapacitated? Because that would be also a pretty big change. You know 4 beast forms chosen from among beast stat blocks that have a maximum challenge rating, and this always changes, by the way, based on your druid level. When you reach certain druid levels, your number of known forms and the maximum challenge rating for those forms increases, as shown in the beast shapes table. When choosing known forms, you may look in the monster manual or elsewhere for eligible beasts if the dungeon master permits you to do so. Each subclass has a different use of Wild Shape. Stars, Circle of Stars gets a starry form. Moon has a combat competent animal form. Sea gets a watery aura. Land gets a burst effect. Okay, I see it here, what you're talking about. I mean... the thing I don't really like about this, and I'm seeing it here, the details around this. I'm just reading. Aqua said, what I don't like about the nerf to level 20 Archdruid was that the only subclass that abused that was Moon Druid. It's always Moon Druid, right? The infinite uses wasn't broken by anything other than Moon Druid. Ergo, Moon Druid, the subclass that needed the nerf, not the class as a whole. I think I tend to agree with you here. You know, I think for some people who play Druid, what's really fun for them is this idea of just like being a master of shape changing. So to put a governor on that is not something I'm super wild about. Yiglong Desmonte, it's the lack of the persistent new form that irritates irrationally. Am I understanding this? Am I understanding this correctly? Is what I said correct in that what I thought I heard is accurate in that you no longer, it's no longer like I want to become a panther. Now let me pull up the panther stat block, or I want to become a lion or a spider, but now it is specific forms that you're choosing. Is that accurate or incorrect? Or are you just choosing 4 beasts that are within that stat block? So, which I don't know what the 1/4. I think that's a wolf. Actually, I can't name off all the 1/4 CR creatures, but you're talking about the land druid. Yeah, I'm not seeing what you're referring to. Just looking at it. Oh, when you finish a long rest, choose one type of land. Interesting. Hmm. Let's see. What it's talking about here. This is a month ago. Here we go. Nature's Aid. Land's Aid, you mean? That swap is the new part? Ah, okay. Okay. And then Aqua said, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked too much into the animal form since I only played Stars, Fire, Land, and Spores. Yeah, Circle of Spores is really fun. I only know Circle of Spores, Circle of the Moon, and it's not a real subclass, Circle of Beasts, which was the homebrew one I was mentioning, where they wanted an animal companion. Let's look. Let me pull this up. Okay, so this is still the case with the new one, in that you don't go incapacitated when your creature is incapacitated. Golly, it's impossible to navigate this. Okay, so it seems like you still choose your instead of having just an unlimited list of creatures that you can pick 4. There's 4 that you know. Yeah, it seems like the beast forms are basically pick four creatures that are 4 beasts, excuse me, that are 1/4 CR or lower, and those are the 4 you know. All you really need to know is Mammoth and Giant Ape. After that, you just go Elemental. I thought that the Moon Druid transformation selection was just brain dead. I think it's for the best that Elementals are removed. So you've clearly played a lot more Druid than I'm even familiar with. I do like what you're saying though, in that keeping it to the Beast category makes sense for sure. Okay, cool. Let's go back to this. Changes. Here we go. Yes. Okay. If I had just stayed on this page, we would have figured it out, right? So you are limited on the number of beasts that you can change into. As a player, I mean, as a DM, I don't know. I just don't know how much I'm going to hold my players to this, by the way. Like, part of the fun of role playing as a druid is like, I'm going to turn into a snake or I'm going to turn into a spider. And I just don't see myself as a DM saying, let's count them up. You were a bird last week. Like, wait a second, that's number 5. I just don't see myself doing that. I think it's kind of a goofy restriction. I don't really know. Now you have 2 more forms. I just don't know. I don't know how valuable this is. I do like that they got rid of this must be a creature you've seen before. To an extent, I guess. Sometimes you'd have players who'd wanted to turn into something kind of eccentric. But on the flip side, I had a player who wanted to be a panther, and like everywhere we went, I wasn't the DM, but everywhere we went, he would ask the DM, he would say, is there a panther here? Do I see a panther anywhere? I think finally after a year, my DM was like, yes, there's a panther. If the Beast Compendium hasn't changed, they're honestly going to cycle between 3 to 6 forms. I think you're totally right. Might as well force them to look them up ahead of time. I think that's a fair point. I think it's often that, I don't know if you guys have ever been at the table where the player says, I'm going to turn into, the monkey or whatever. And then combat grinds to a halt as we open up the monster manual or I think it's in the monster manual, but we go through and try to find the stat block for that animal. So you could be totally right. I think maybe constricting them to a certain number might make a lot of sense. When you finish a long rest, you can replace it. You can speak in beast form. Okay. I guess I like those changes. I don't dislike it. Damage in wall shape. Okay. Interesting. Again, I love this wild companion. I mentioned that already. But did they nerf Circle of the Moon at all? Remember Circle of the Moon being like crazy early on? Let's see. The maximum challenge rating for your form equals your druid level divided by 3. Round down. How does that make sense? What are you rounding down to? Are you rounding down to 1/4? Because certainly you can't round down to a whole number, right? If you're level 2. Because subclass is level 2, right? Let's see. Come on. Oh, level 3. Okay. So it seems like still pretty strong. Is this right? The maximum challenge rating for your form equals your druid level divided by 3. So at level 3, you could have a 1 CR creature, right? Did you get it at level 3? 3 divided by 3 is 1. It seems like Circle of the Moon still really crazy strong. A 1 CR creature. Let's see here. A 1 CR creature at level 3. Let's look at beasts. And let's do challenge rating 1. Tell me what we have here. Oh, and let's not do... we don't want to see homebrew. Can I turn this off? Okay, I guess I can't. Anyway, we have a brown bear. Dire wolf. Just look at some of these. Can't be a flyer. We know that. Unless that has... No. Let's just look at like these view and just see what the stats look like. Multi-attack 1d8 plus 3. I mean, 2 rend attacks. I mean, that's pretty strong. Especially at level 3. The toad, a 1d10 plus 5 or plus 1d10 poison damage. Okay. Multi-attack again, 1d8 and 1d4. I mean, honestly, it still seems pretty strong. So, kind of not really. There's not much of a difference other than that level 20 Arch Druid nerf, which isn't a moon nerf. It's a class nerf. Okay. Okay. I gotcha. Okay, cool. Still, so far, I feel like the classes are much fuller. There hasn't been a class. We've reviewed 6 classes now, and none of them have felt like terrible or bad for the class. And so far, while every class has gotten some good changes, the only one that has felt bad is the Divine Smite change for Paladin, going to a bonus action. And the only one that feels like over the top broken is Monk, which I don't know how bad monks were previously. We did look at it, but monks just seem insane. They definitely seem like one of the strongest classes now. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for today. We'll do 3 more classes next week. We'll continue to check out this kind of content. So if you're enjoying and you haven't checked out the channel before, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Join our Discord, because we'll be watching Legend of Vox Machina Season 3 tonight. And then we'll have our Critical Role watch party tonight for episode 111, and then our Friday stream. So all that to say, thank you guys for tuning in today. I so appreciate it, and catch you later. See ya.